Hello, and thank you all for joining us today. Welcome to our live webinar, Winning in the Digital Era with Talent Insights. My name is Isabel Pryor, and I'm a marketing manager on the Talent Solutions team at LinkedIn based in our Sydney office. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items for you. You are all muted by default, so if you have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A box. We will have a dedicated Q&A session after the presentation, so feel free to send me your questions throughout the presentation, and I will ask our presenters at the end of the session. And most importantly, we will be sharing the slides as well as the recording from today's session with all of you after the webcast. So you will receive an email in the coming days with a link where you can download the presentation or watch the recording again. And now I'm happy to introduce you to today's presenters, Josh Coulson, Senior Manager Insights, Asia Pacific here at LinkedIn, and Gordan Duffy, our Global Client Executive. Hi, Gordan. Hi, Josh. Thanks for joining us today. Can you please introduce yourselves to the audience and get us started?
Good morning, and thank you very much, Eddie. My name's Gordan Duff. I'll speak clearly with my accent for you all. It's a pleasure to be running this, and my role is a global client executive working across APAC with some of LinkedIn's largest and most strategic partners. And Josh?
Thanks, Gordan, and good morning, everybody. My name is Josh Coulson, and I look after the Insights team here at LinkedIn across Asia Pacific. My team and I look after some of our largest customers as well, Gordan, and we provide a huge amount of value out of LinkedIn's data set. Obviously, with the amount of data that LinkedIn has, we are able to go in and help a lot of organizations be very strategic about how they work with talent and across a number of different areas. So, and really excited to bring you some of those insights today and how you can best partner with LinkedIn to make that happen.
All right. Now, as far as the agenda goes for this session, I know that many of you probably know LinkedIn very well based on your current experience as a member and as a client. What we hope to do today is expand on that and give you a better understanding of the platform and capabilities, how we've been working with various clients and governments at entry level, and especially how we can help by getting the best decisions to you to grow your businesses and succeed as a talent organization. So I'll start by kicking off with a quick LinkedIn overview, a little bit about how we layer our data and some of our mission and vision objectives. After that, I'll pass on to Josh to walk through some interesting data points in the Australian market, specific to your needs, and some of the offerings that we have that your relationship managers can help you with. And then finally, I'll bring us home with some examples of how they can be used in real terms, and we'll finish up with some questions. I'll get all the rest of the slides right. I'll start off with our vision. Our vision is something that's been constant and hasn't changed since it's been created. It's creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Now, when we talk about creating economic opportunity for our members, we really need to be helping our key clients succeed so that we can get that economic opportunity to the employees. The way we manifest that is through our aspirations to build the world's first economic graph. The economic graph is something that involves our 500 million members, our 7 million companies, our aspirations to have the world's jobs, skills, and education providers on the platform. Layered on top of that, we can now boast the world's largest professional content platform, and collectively that gives us a data platform that we can now and are now working with governments, like the Chinese government, Singapore government, Indian government, and Australian government on things as broad as education reform. But we certainly don't want to do that without bringing on our clients like yourselves. And our mission is far broader: to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. Now, when we talk about the professionals, we're talking about building relationships with the world's professionals. And one of the things that's great about LinkedIn now is just the diversity and the scale of that membership. We've just passed 100 million members in APAC. We've got 8 million members in Australia and in excess of 1 million members in New Zealand. So the talent pool here for you is one of the richest talent pools anywhere in the world. When we think about that, those members are your employees. They're your employees and they're employees of your competitors, peers, and everyone else in the companies of Australia. So when we then layer on top of that the activities that they actually are undertaking on the platform to build our data, it's things like shares, likes, comments, posts read, posts passed on, and a whole range of connections and relationships that we can dive into to build a very, very deep platform of data and insights. In fact, our 500 million members are sharing upwards of 2 billion member updates a week, and you can just imagine the billions of relationships that are being formed and fostered on a daily basis. So with that introduction, bringing you up to speed with where LinkedIn is actually at today, now I want to pass over to Josh to get into the nuts and bolts of the presentation and give a quick presentation on insights in Australia today.
Very cool. Thank you, Gordan. So, as I mentioned, my team and the Insights team here at LinkedIn, we were created, originally designed to create research and data-driven insights to power the world's most effective sales and marketing. And then when we partner with you, our customers, we are bringing the power of that big data to bear with you to really help implement some of your talent strategies at scale in a really data-driven way. Data-driven is one of those new buzzwords, Gordo, that everyone is throwing around, that they want to be more data-driven. And here at LinkedIn, we have the power of that data. We have those, as you were saying, those 500 million members around the world, over 8 million here in Australia. And it is the power of that data that we are able to operationalize for our customers to be able to help them take their talent strategy and be more data-driven in the way that they're doing that. And that's what I'm coming up to 5 years here at LinkedIn, and very proud to say that we've been able to do that for a number of organizations throughout Australia and APAC over that period of time. Now, it wouldn't be a data presentation if we didn't start off with a little cartoon to make sure that we're all on the same page. And here's mine. Now, big data being the buzzword of the data industry over the last few years, we throw this around a lot, and essentially when it comes to 500 million members around the world, and the sheer scale of that is incredible, Gordo, that it is a huge amount of fun. And incredibly powerful. When we start to dig into what the Australian membership...
I just got to interrupt you. You are the biggest audience that we've had Josh's terrible joke presented to so far, so we had to let that go. That's a data joke for everyone that's new to this.
So when we start to dig into what the Australian membership looks like, when we start to dig in past the 8 million headline, we can start to see that we have an incredible diversity of members here in Australia. For instance, we can see that 38% of the Australian membership is female. Almost half of the membership is between 25 and 35. 730,000 members started a new job in 2016. When we start to dig into the detail around who those 8 million members are, we really start to see a broad cross-section. And 8 million members, Gordo, that really is a fantastic representation of Australian professionals online. We can start to see there are some of the top functions, top industries, and it's no real surprise to see, finance and tech up there. But I guess what you may be interested in and be surprised to see is that some of those more traditional, less digital industries that are starting now to make up more of the membership. Manufacturing, construction is there, even government and education. So we're starting to see a real evolution of the membership in Australia on LinkedIn. And we can even see there, when you're talking about evolution, the growth of specific skills, and I know that many of you are out there, recruiting for highly in-demand skills. And when we're seeing there the top growing skills as a real example of that, SEO and SEM marketing, as a great example, is something that has grown over time and is in high demand right now. So when we start to really dig into then, as Gordo, you were saying, it goes beyond the membership. It's their relationships, it's their engagement on the platform, it's what they're doing on a daily basis. We can start to see that, and as you mentioned, we're now the top publishing platform, the top professional content platform globally. And you can see there some of the trending topics that this is from a recent time period where we're able to see what members are actually engaging with on the platform. And if we're looking at, we often get asked questions around how are members using the platform. These are actually the top 4 ways in which members use the platform. First of all, predominantly, LinkedIn is all about networking, and that again, ties back to our mission. But they're connecting and communicating, networking with other professionals and members. Over 54% of our users do that, have done that in the last 30 days. Half of everyone is researching people and companies, so that's all about viewing other people's their profiles and all that kind of stuff. But the real growth area for LinkedIn right now has been all around professional insights, and that's staying up to date as a professional. That's reading from other luminaries on the platform, other influencers, posting your own content, and all of building your personal brand. And then also a growing area for LinkedIn is around how members are using the platform to look at job opportunities, talking to recruiters, looking at job ads, all of those kind of things.
There's much more social eminence rather than just a job platform.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that when LinkedIn first started, and it was simply a digital resume, and I think these days the growth in the platform around using LinkedIn as a source of professional insight, as a source of professional development, has really come on leaps and bounds in the last few years. So here's another data set that where this is really enabling us to, going beyond the LinkedIn, the member profile, to helping, this is something that my team's been doing over a long period of time, in helping organizations understand exactly what is out there in the marketplace and how they can start to use that data to power their talent strategies. One of the common problems that we help organizations understand is what skills are out there right now. How do I use those skills? How do I use that data to power my, where should I put investments around recruitment or training? The classic example being, and this is actually something I was helping an organization with in the last few months. They were looking at UX and UI skills, and in particular, they are, and for those of you who are hiring in that digital space, it is incredibly hard to find UX designers and researchers. It is even harder to find good ones. And so there is a huge amount of work around, and that's a really niche skill right now. There's some educational providers who are doing a huge amount of business training people, but a lot of organizations really who are struggling around that, and this particular customer was struggling with this, and they were looking at how do I use my internal skills data, how do I use my employees' information to find out who should I actually train up to be a UX designer or UX researcher. So what we were looking at was, okay, if we're not going to be able to either afford to get those skills from the market, or, and in a practical way, I can't hire them because they don't exist, or they're in such small numbers that it's too hard to find. How can I look at my employee database? How can I look at the information on my employees and decide who do I invest in to actually bring them up to speed to be that UX designer? And so what we were able to look at is looking at all of the information on their skills of their members and their employees, and look at essentially which of those professionals was closest to being that. And here's a similar visualization where we were able to look at the highest growth skills, and this is growing skills in Australia right now. So this is taking a step back and looking at this on a much more macro level. But what we can see there is a skill like cloud and distributed computing, which is a massive, a real focus area for a lot of organizations. What we're seeing there is 18% year-on-year growth in that skill, and professionals who are adding that to their profile. So what we're able to start to do then is it's coming off a large base anyway, so there's a lot of developers and there's a lot of engineers that are in this space, and it's high growing. So for organizations that are investing in this area, the problem and the challenges that exist in that is, how do I attract more people to my organization, and how do we use this skills data to actually make informed decisions around that? And that's what we mean by data-driven talent strategy. So if we just move on there, Gordo. We can then start to go beyond just skills data as well and start to tie that back to even geographical data. So here, taking those cloud and distributed computing skills, if I was a software house right now sitting in Australia and I was trying to make a decision around do I put investments into Sydney or Melbourne, or should I be looking to hire people from Brisbane, Perth, or even Canberra, we can start to help organizations understand the trade-offs between these different locations, both from a macro talent lens, and then we can go deep and niche into what do these professionals look like in these different areas. There's the obvious insights around who's employing them, but the less obvious stuff around why would they potentially want to move, how engaged are you with those professionals as an employer, what do they think of you, what are your chances of hiring them in the right time frame, and then even from a cost point of view, what's it going to actually cost for you to hire someone in Sydney versus Melbourne, and how can we help you be data-driven around some of those decisions. So just moving on.
So on that, there's companies trying to hire these people in Sydney, but they probably could be hiring them in Canberra. They don't need to be in the right place, do they?
Well, so that's absolutely right. So, I think the takeaway here, though, is if you're actually looking in Canberra, the demand for those skills, which is the y-axis on this bubble chart, is actually showing that demand. So, I guess in the cloud and distributed computing area, there is a lot in the public service and the public sector where forcing Canberra in particular as a hub spot and a hotspot for the skills and professionals with these skills. So if you're actually looking to hire these skills in Canberra, you're going to really struggle, or you're going to have to pay more than market for those skills. But potentially, if you went to somewhere like Brisbane or Sydney and you were able to relocate them to Canberra or move that skill base to Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, you could potentially do it in a lower cost way. So going beyond simply where they are and who they are and what skills they have, what LinkedIn can now help you understand is also what they potentially are looking for in a job. So this is the basis of a large piece of research that we do on an annual basis, where we go out to a lot of our members and ask them, what are you looking for in a job? And what we can start to find is that a lot of professionals, obviously, excellent comp is still coming up as number one. They still want to get paid for what they do. And that's not particularly interesting on its own. But when we start to compare different cohorts of professionals, what we can start to find is that there are different gaps, or where professionals over-index or under-index on particular employee value propositions that are going to help you as an organization engage and attract these professionals in the best way possible. So we can start to use this information to help you craft job descriptions, help you craft emails. How do you even from and actually a really interesting application of this information, Gordo, was I was helping an organization recently look at the EVP differences in the genders, between male and female, and all around job description. There's some fascinating research out there at the moment that says that certain words in job description, certain phrases are leading to an over-application or not over-application, but over-indexing of male applicants to female applicants. And there's some really interesting stuff out there now that says that you really need to pay a lot of attention to even the wording in your job descriptions to balance that out. And obviously with the focus on gender diversity is with a lot of organisations in Australia very much challenged by that as a theme. There's a huge amount of investment right now into getting even that very operational, very tactical detail right. So that is quite interesting. We're able to start to use this EVP data to help organisations design job descriptions, design email messaging in a way that can be very attractive to whichever target talent you're actually going after.
That's even a new conversation for a talent team to have with hiring managers.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess what at the end of the day we're saying here is that profile data provides that complete picture. You know, Gordan, when you talk about the economic graph there, and that's very much the macro that we want to have, you know, a economic picture of every single member of the global workforce, and we want to be able to map that out, and we want to be able to map the organizations and the skills and educational providers around the world. When we get down to it in the micro, and we have a look at every single professional in Australia, you know, our 8 million members, we start to see some very interesting things that at that real micro level, you know, we can obviously start to help people understand, you know, past employers, languages, demographics, et cetera, but profile data provides such a complete picture around professionals that when you get that at the aggregate level, you can really start to make some very interesting data-driven decisions around it. So moving then on into what we're calling LinkedIn Enterprise Analytics. And this is all about how we are starting to provide the insights that we can from LinkedIn's amazing data set to our customers at scale. So what we are now bringing to the market is a service offering and a product offering that is going to help you as our customers be more data-driven in your talent strategy. So first of all, from a custom consulting point of view, we are able to help you using that LinkedIn data really either illustrate your internal talent strategy, help you understand the market in a greater way, help you dig into a business challenge in a consulting engagement style, or we have our standardized reports, which is what we're calling our Talent and Intelligence Report, which we're going to spend a bit of time today on going through exactly what they look like, what challenges that they can help you unravel internally within your organization, and how you can start to use some of those insights from LinkedIn to really power some data-driven decision-making internally within your organization. So in terms of some of the challenges that we can start to help you start to investigate, some of the top ways that we have helped organizations in the past in some of these areas is all around, you know, starting there around workforce planning. How can we help you understand your own workforce right now and potentially what it looks like into the future? Going back to what I was talking about there just previously, how can we help you understand what the skills are that your organization is going to need in the future and what's that going to look like? And helping us starting to putting some, you know, workforce planning, Gordo, is such an interesting topic for a lot of organizations, and that it's, you know, a lot of organizations are trying to find the right level of data and insights to power that workforce planning, and LinkedIn is in a really unique position to be able to do so. Talent acquisition, there's so many different challenges there that insights can help with, whether or not it's addressing what market conditions might look like, how do we optimize our talent acquisition dollars, how do we even look at employer branding and where we should deploy investment against and what that target talent needs to look like for us to achieve our goals, or whether or not it's competitive benchmarking and having a look at how does your talent brand stack up to the market? How do some of your internal metrics stack up to the market? You know, even for instance, you know, we're looking at diversity there on the left-hand side. Gender diversity as a topic again is such a massive theme right now, and LinkedIn is in a unique position to be able to help you compare yourselves to your competitors, and we can start to help you understand what that looks like, whether or not that's at the leadership or functional level or whatever it needs to look like. And the last one there is market research, and this is probably one of the most important areas for us in that, given the depth and breadth of LinkedIn data, is able to help you understand exactly what, you know, for instance, what something like specific skills look like on a supply and demand basis, helping you understand industry growth and decline over time, all of those kind of things. What does that market look like? And then helping you make decisions from a talent acquisition lens around how do I use the market dynamics right now to my advantage to optimize my talent strategy. So the way that we're going to market with that is what we're calling our Talent Pool Pro report, our Talent Intelligence report. This is a 20-page comprehensive report looking into a very specific talent pool. And some of the options around targeting here make this an incredibly powerful and compelling piece of intelligence. We could look at our targeting options around this are anything from skills, so again looking at maybe something like cloud and computing skills, or we could go very niche, something like management consulting as a skill, or even very niche, something around maybe Java developers, or J2EE, or something very, very specific around a skill set that you're looking for. We could even then look at an industry or a functional level. So maybe if you're looking for salespeople in the sports or entertainment industries, something very left field. That this is a report that is going to help you understand what those professionals in that field look like, and across a number of different dimensions. And some of those dimensions we're going to go through right now. But there's a huge amount of detail on these reports that is going to be able to provide you with that information that's going to help you be data-driven in your decision making.
And you really get to choose those targets, right? I mean, it says it's a standard report, but it's a standard format, but you get to choose the talent pool you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Gordan. So yeah, we can, working with your relationship manager at LinkedIn, we will be able to help you understand the best targeting. Obviously, there is little sense going and running a report on a handful of members, but we're going to be able to help you understand what that targeting looks like to be able to give you optimized results. So, for instance, and going back to our thematic lens here, if we start with talent acquisition, we can start to help you understand what supply and demand looks like for that particular skill set. And, for instance, this particular example that we're looking at here, there's 70,000 of these professionals in Australia, and we can have a look in a geographical lens, looking at which cities that those members are in, but then also, more importantly, what's the demand looking like for those professionals, and how can you use these insights to, again, look at whether or not it's depending on what is important to you as an organization, whether or not that's cost of hire or time to hire, but how can we help you understand what the market looks like, and in a really practical way. A lot of organizations are using these reports and this level of intelligence to set expectations with hiring managers. And as a hiring manager myself, actually is a really good example of how we've used this information. I've recently been trying to hire an analyst in Japan. Now that's actually quite a tough thing to do with, in Japan and the language issues and all of those. But we were able to have a look at what, from an insights perspective, what analysts in Japan with a certain specific set of skills looks like, and the competition for those individuals, and what which peers were hiring them and who was currently employing them. What their levels and skill sets looked like, and we were able to make some, my recruiter was able to set expectations with me that it was going to take some time to get the right person, and it did, but we ended up getting the right person. But, as a hiring manager, I felt informed. I felt like my recruiter had partnered with me. And that the communication channel was a lot more transparent because we both understood exactly what the market looked like for those professionals. Similarly, when we're talking about competitive benchmarking, here we can see that we're able to look at engagement and reach metrics against some of our key competitors. So this might be something like having a look at how many of these professionals of that specific target pool actually are aware of you as an organization, and how does that awareness factor actually compare to other organizations? How easy is it going to be when you're competing against these other organizations for that same talent? And we can help you. And the interesting thing around competitive benchmarking is we can take a set of companies to compare you against from you. So this isn't something that is standard. This is very much customizable so that we can help you understand exactly who you're competing against, but we can also take a set of companies from you as well. Talent brand, so we can help you understand exactly how strong your brand is against competitors, but also when you're trying to attract these individuals and engage with them, and essentially how strong is your reputation with those professionals. And again, we're looking at here survey data that is going to help us assess the strength of your brand and that reputation in the marketplace. So that brings us on to the custom analysis that we're able to do as well. Some examples of that we've done recently is things around gender diversification. So we're able to help organizations understand not obviously what diversity looks like within their organization, but benchmarking it against the market or against industry or whatever it needs to be. Nationality, so we can start to look at, for instance, we recently helped an organization in one of the Southeast Asian countries try to look at where nationals from that country had traveled to internationally, and then we looked at helping them design a campaign to bring those professionals back to their home, essentially, which is a really interesting campaign because we were able to look at where they'd migrated to. So, for instance, X number were in the United States, X number in the United Kingdom, and we were able to put together a campaign package that was able to put in front of them messaging to be able to bring them back to their home country. And again, we can even go custom on deeper competitive benchmarking to help you understand in whatever challenge you might be facing exactly how competitive companies are performing in whatever it needs to be.
It's quite funny when I have a client who's so large that they're actually using that type of insight to find their own employees and work on a strategy for workforce mobility. They've been able to identify expatriated employees.
It's an interesting one, especially around the challenges at the moment. We've just seen the raft of changes around 457 visas. I think there is going to be some really interesting things happening around migration in the next 5 to 10 years. Gord, I'll hand it back to you to talk about how we can best partner with LinkedIn.
Thanks, Josh. It's always good to be able to co-present with a data-driven mind that can have a conversation. So thanks for your time there, Josh, and some great insights. So for digitally engaged and growing businesses, partnering with LinkedIn, it really does mean more than it has ever before. The insights that Josh and his team are continually developing, as you can see, are increasingly focused on helping you to achieve your goals. And it's an aspect of LinkedIn's capabilities that I personally believe for some time we've not been client-focused enough on, and that we've used internally without sharing. So it's absolutely amazing to see that team come up with some client-facing solutions that can help you all drive your own businesses. Where does it fit within your business? We all know that time is money, and HR and talent being successful is essentially business growth and success for the company. So here's how we can help you plan, communicate, and achieve those goals with some examples. Now, it's no surprise to anyone on this line, I would expect, that the talent journey really starts a long way before anyone on the line is engaging with a candidate. We all know that 53% of professionals start considering the switching jobs at least 5 months before they actually leave the business. We know that the vast majority are actually interested in hearing new opportunities. But you may not know that 69% of them tell us that they don't even have a clue where to start when they do consider actually moving. And that's where a lot of our previous focus has been on talent branding, getting out to the audience that you're trying to attract, getting their attention, and driving them towards you so that they think of you as the number one person to go to when they actually change their mind. Where we want to fit in here is being able to front load that whole process with strategic insights that help you understand how to actually focus your investments. Josh mentioned earlier that how you deploy your investment as being a key area of one of the parts. And I think when it comes to HR and talent, the workforce planning is really the war room of talent. And it's something that has been for a long time, I guess, run by insights and past experience, insights in terms of your own company databases where you used to find people, third-party data, things like what your recruitment companies are telling you. And I think it's really exciting that we have the biggest first data source to be able to inform those decisions moving forward. I want to give you a quick example in terms of context. Josh talked about the IT industry, and I think it's easy to assume that that's where this is useful. So I ran some insights around just a more traditional role like risk management consultant. And for example, there's 187,000 risk management consultants in and around Australia, and not surprisingly, about 60,000 of them are based in Sydney and about 50,000 of them are based in Melbourne. Now, using the insights that Josh was talking about there, we can actually see firsthand that the competition for that 60 and 50,000 risk managers in Sydney and Melbourne is extremely high. But we can also see that there's a hidden gem in Adelaide, where there's actually about 10,000 LinkedIn members with risk management consultant on their profiles and a relatively low demand. So perhaps that aspect of the insights is helping you drive your business decisions to just start a team in Adelaide or open up your job opportunity with your hiring manager to save money on both salary and sourcing. I then wanted to just expand a little bit on the competitive benchmarking. Growing your business obviously needs to know who's on the move, and your hiring managers need to be looking at HR and talent acquisition leaders to be giving them insights into who's hiring the talent they need. And these Talent Pro reports are actually helping drive not just who are the top companies in your line of business, but who's growing the fastest and where is the talent going in terms of industry and function. You can imagine being able to target talent branding initiatives or being able to target sponsored in-mail campaigns, or even being able to just word your job descriptions just a little bit better so that they attract that type of demographic that you're actually looking for. And then finally, one of the things that's really close to us at LinkedIn is diversity and inclusion. Pat Waders, our CHRO, is very big on belonging being a part of that, but I think when it comes to diversity and inclusion, it's really about leveraging the data you can access to get the best outcomes. If you have a strategy, I'm sure all of you do, to hit 50-50 employment by a certain date, it's not going to be an easy one to satisfy. And we can see here from this data from the government that we're really looking now at government data from about 2015 based on census information. What Josh is showing you in these talent reports is live, it's real time, and we can actually start to see that, for a fact, if you were to focus on your company in 2020 and you were looking at risk management consultants, as I've used in the previous example, only 33% of that entire population is female. So when you're actually focusing your energy and investing in your campaigns, it's probably helpful to have a much deeper insight into where you're going to find the right workforce to hit that balance in the first place. So don't go spending your money in an industry sector that's 10% female when you can shop in an area that's, say, 70% or 80%. And that's a kind of really great insight into a practical use of breaking down your company's industry and function areas to achieve a much broader HR and business goal. So, I hope it's all been fantastic for you. To wrap up, I just want to talk to you about LinkedIn really having the best first-person data anywhere in the world to help drive your business imperatives. Your relationship managers are your first point of call, obviously. To follow up on this and anything interesting that you've heard, talk to your relationship managers and they can get Josh's team in to help you work out what the best solutions are. And we're continually evolving our services to ensure that you, our clients, have got the best opportunities for growth. These are some of the most exciting insights that we've actually produced ever to go out to business. And based on the previous insights we would come to and say a QBR for your businesses, these certainly have a lot more depth, and being able to custom talent pool is a fantastic way to achieve success. And as we all know, success is really going all the way back to the start about the relationships that you have with the people that you need to help drive your business. And with that, I'll hand back to Izzy.
Thanks, Gordan. Thanks, Josh and Gordan, for this presentation. That was great. Now, before we move on to the Q&A session, I just wanted to mention that we will send out the slides from this webinar as well as the recording to everyone. I had a few questions come through regarding this, so just keep an eye on your inbox in the coming days and you will receive both of them. Use the Q&A box if you have any questions. I had a few come through throughout the presentation, so I'll kick off with those and then I'll pick up any more that will come through. So Josh, Gordan, one of the questions that came through was, how do these vary from the QBR that my relationship manager brings me?
Yeah, that's a very good question. As for those of you who aren't aware, as part of your relationship with LinkedIn, we do provide information to you on a quarterly basis as part of a business review. A lot of that information is around the performance of your organization with LinkedIn and how LinkedIn is helping powering your talent strategy. A lot of that information is very, I guess, operational by nature, and it's having a look at how that is performing and looking at return on investment and all that kind of information. We do have some deeper insights that are available as part of the QBR process, but generally it's more at the operational level. This information level of insight is available that is much more driven by your talent strategy, so it's much more looking at the challenges that you're facing as an organization from a talent point of view, and starting to address how can we use LinkedIn data to actually help either illustrate those challenges or helping you think through in a much more deeper, strategic, data-driven way, and really coming to recommendations that are going to help you be successful in those areas. Yeah,
I definitely agree. This is I've delivered a lot of QBRs in my time at LinkedIn, and they're very retrospective and reactive. This is very proactive. This is really partnering with the core of what you're trying to achieve as a business. Usually looking forward 6 months, a year, or even longer into where you want to be investing for success.
Great. Thanks, guys. Next question. Can I load the raw data into my own system to integrate it into existing reports?
Great question.
Yeah, good question, Izzy. So if that is of interest to you, and if that is something that you would like to look at, we do have solutions that make that possible. And again, if that is something of interest, feel free to have a conversation with your LinkedIn contact, and we can follow up.
I'll leave that with what Josh said.
Yeah. We're a bit over time, but I'm going to go for one more question. Is there a limit to the number of talent pools that you can have, or the scope of the talent pool?
Yeah, I've heard that before. The number of talent pools you can have, no, there's not. Each of these reports is for a specific talent pool. I have clients who have used this one talent pool to represent their business, and I've had clients who have had multiple to represent each part of their business. So, for example, they might want to look at a talent pool report for their cognitive side of the business, a talent pool report for their hardware side of the business, etc. In terms of the scope, that's really what Josh was talking about in terms of Talent Pro versus custom. The Talent Pro, you can specialize your talent pool for that report. The custom is where we can really sit down and look a bit more specifically around what you're trying to get out of it if the talent report isn't containing or specific to what your needs are. And that's where Josh and his team can really help dive down in a partnership sense and create really custom outcomes. So no, there's no limit on the number you can have, and there's essentially no limit as far as we can produce the data on what you can actually report on. But thanks, that's a really good question that we get a lot in the field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you, Josh and Gordan, for the presentation, also answering those questions. And thank you to everyone else who joined us for this webcast today. We hope to see you again at one of our other webcasts that are coming up soon. Thanks and goodbye.
Thanks very much.